Welcome to this video. In here, I'm gonna teach you how to combine two normal random variables. Normal in this case just means continuous. When finding the sum or difference of two continuous random variables, the same rules apply. Means add or subtract. Variance always add, and you can never just add the standard deviations. There is one important additional add item to consider, which is right here. If you combine two random normal variables through addition or subtraction, the resulting random variable is also normal. So it kind of makes sense because even though you're adding or subtracting, you're implement the math rules to the variables, you're not changing its original characteristic. So if it's already normal, it won't be unnormal, or it will stay normal. So let's take a look at this example. For two friends, Bob and George, the daily amount of time spent in hours watching streaming videos on their iPhones varies according to a normal distribution. For Bob, random variable B is approximately n, normal with mean 2.5, and standard deviation as 0.5. For George, random variable G is approximately normal distribution with 3.2 for mean and 0.6 for standard deviation. Their times are independent. Describe the distribution of B plus G, the daily amount of time that Bob and George spend streaming on their iPhones combined. So that kind of also a recap for how are we going to implement the mathematical rules when doing the means and standard deviation. So doing the means, if whenever the question is asking you for adding or subtracting, you're just going to do the same rule for the independent means. So what I mean by that is, since the question in here asking you to find the sum for these two, you're going to simply adding the means for these two, which gives you 5.7. The standard deviation of the sum is you're going to add the variance together and take the square root, which gives you 0.781. Therefore, the new normal distribution of these combined scores are normal distribution for 5.7 for mean and 0.781 for standard deviation. And how are you going to graph those? So the probability of Bob is greater than 3.5. What is that? Like, how are we going to find out? Well, since the question already gives you they are both normal distribution, so you can draw a normal curve first. Label the mean is 2.5 for Bob, and standard deviation is 0.5. You're going to find 3.5, which is greater than 3.5, and gives you 0.0228 for the amount of area. So you can do it on the calculator. Same thing if I ask you to find what is the probability for George to watch streaming videos less than 1.5 hours per day. You're gonna graph the normal curve, label the mean and standard deviation for George, and using your calculator to find the area, which is 0.0023. Okay, so that's not bad. That's kind of mostly review for what we learned from previous videos. But right now comes the new stuff. Find the probability that the combined time spent streaming video on a randomly selected day exceeds 6 hours. Well, that comes a little trickier because we know the combined normal distribution for mean and standard deviation, but how are we going to find the value that is greater than 6? So basically we're asking to find the probability of B plus G greater than 6. Well, actually everything is not so bad, because after you find out the mean and standard deviation for the combined normal distribution, you're going to simply apply the same format on your calculator. Label mean and standard deviation, and type 6. The upper bound will be just randomly type a extreme large number, and you will get the area right here, 0.3504. So that's the value right there. But what about I ask you to find the probability of B greater than G? So Bob watching more time of streaming videos than George. Well, we can convert it a little bit to B minus G is greater than 0. That's a mathematical conversion. And we're going to apply our mathematical rule for the subtracting for mean. So whenever you are doing a difference of two events, defining the new mean, you're simply just going to find the difference of the individual means, which gives you negative 0.7. And the standard deviation, you're going to, I'm not showing the work right here, but what we're going to do is first adding the variance of Bob and George and take the square root of their sum, which gives you 0.781. And then you're going to go into your calculator, and the way that show it on the graph is you're going to find the area that's to the right of 0, because we want to find the B minus G, the difference is greater than 0, so we only want the right part of it. Therefore, you get the area, which is 0.1850. Okay, so that's it for this video, and it's not a long one, but I hope it kind of gives you a good idea about how are you going to find the difference or the sum of like two combined normal distributions, find the areas on the normal curve, and how are we going to draw it. You see, like, we did a little bit of manipulation from the original equation, so it gives a better picture for us to see what is actually going on. Okay, thank you.